Now we are going to part 2 of our series on prenatal equal protection in Georgia. And part 2 is expanding our efforts. And in this segment, again, we will inform you as to our state's legislative process, as well as introduce you to the legislative efforts that we are asking you to engage in during the time leading up to the 2024 Georgia legislative session beginning in January. First, we're going to talk about the legislative process in Georgia. And as you can see from the flow chart, a bill is filed in an original chamber. You have the House chamber, you have the Senate chamber. Then it goes to a first and second reading. It is assigned to a committee. There is a committee hearing and a vote. And if the committee votes the piece of legislation out of committee, it goes back to its original chamber for a floor vote. If it passes in the original chamber, it moves to the other chamber, which would be the House or Senate, whichever one it is going to be passed to, and that has to take place before or during crossover day. And crossover day is around the 30th day of the legislative process. A similar procedure is followed in the second chamber, and then the legislation can pass as is or amended. Then it actually has to return to the original chamber and then be sent to the governor for signing. So that is the process in simple language of what our legislature goes through for each piece of legislation that is passed in Georgia. As it pertains to equal protection in Georgia, I wanted to let you know where we stand as far as our status of abortion in Georgia on 2 levels. One is, what are our statistics showing in Georgia? What is the trend regarding abortion? Well, from this chart, what you can see is that we've taken the 2019 through 2022 statistics from the Georgia Department of Public Health, and we have listed, the first column is your state totals, and then what we wanted to bring out is significantly the percentage of the Black abortions that are taking place in our state, so that people understand that there is a very significant trend of Black abortions taking place in the state of Georgia, to the tune of around 66% of the abortions taking place are Black abortions. But notice here, as we've dealt with the time of the Life Act in Georgia, which people refer to as a heartbeat bill, or a 6-week ban, which technically it is not either of those. But notice the trend. Instead of abortions going down, as has been the media and publicity's stats, instead of those going down, what we see is we are trending higher each year as we move forward. So regulating abortion in Georgia, obviously from the stats that we see here, it actually has not curbed in any point the amount of abortions that are taking place. And sadly, these numbers do not even include much of the chemical abortion, nor does it include surgical abortions that take place in doctors' offices if they perform 50 or less abortions per year. Those are not reported. So under Georgia's current abortion law, we still have 13 abortion mills in operation. Abortion pills are being sent via mail to women so that they can, in the privacy of their home, have an abortion, which we know, according to testimony, has resulted in physical, mental, and emotional tragedy for women. And even with the aspects of personhood in the language of our legislation, the allowance of abortion remains under certain circumstances. No enforcement of abortion laws, or any other laws for that matter, equals no accountability. Therefore, we can see, as we see on the chart, we can see that no enforcement of law reaps greater loss of life. In 2023, under the Gold Dome in Georgia, we had 2 pieces of legislation that were introduced, and we're going to talk a short time about those. One is House Bill 496, and one is House Resolution 413. We'll start with House Resolution 413. The significance of a resolution, by the way, is that it takes a little bit of a different process in how it is handled, even though it still goes through all of the process in the legislative chambers, but it is actually submitted as an amendment to the state constitution. So in the state of Georgia, we have the paramount right to life, which is the personhood amendment, as we refer to it. It is the recognition of personhood from fertilization until natural death for all human beings. It's filed by Representative Charlie Byrd on March 6th of 2023. She serves the people in Cherokee County. It has no co-sponsors. It was assigned to the House Rules Committee. It did not in 2023 receive a hearing. Therefore, for the 2024 legislative process, it will go back to House Rules Committee where it is currently, and the House Rules Committee will handle it from that point. House Bill 496 is the Georgia Prenatal Equal Protection Act. It was filed by Representative Emery Donahue on February 21st of 2023. He serves the citizens of Gainesville. This bill has 5 co-sponsors. It was assigned to the Public Health Committee. It did not receive a hearing. Something that I want to point out about being assigned to the Public Health Committee is that this piece of legislation actually is working as far as the criminal code for homicide in the state of Georgia. And for this to be put into a public health committee is very significant, because normally something that pertains to a criminal code or code that deals with legalities would be sent to something like a judiciary. It did not receive a hearing either. So again, it is still in the process. It is still alive as far as the 2024 legislative session is concerned. And so it will be picked up in the Public Health Committee again. And later in Section 3 of our discussion today, we will talk about the necessity of the grassroots in making sure that House Bill 496 and House Resolution 413 do get hearings in those committees. Again, if you have questions or want further information regarding anything that we have shown in this segment, please feel free to reach out to Georgia Right to Life at the contact on the screen, or again, you can also speak with your local GRTL chapter leader.